Under the tall silver pillars of the alien palace, the air shimmered with strange light. The Thalren Empire was a place of quiet power, full of noble beings with glowing eyes and flowing robes. On that day, a single human stood among them. His name was Eli Grant, an engineer from Earth. He had come as part of a trade group, but now he was alone, standing before a throne higher than any he had ever seen. The alien king and queen sat upon it like living statues, silent and proud. The nobles around him whispered, their voices echoing softly through the hall. Eli did not understand why he had been brought there. Only an hour earlier, he had been fixing a broken drone near the palace gates. The machine had gone out of control, shooting sparks and spinning toward a group of alien guards. Everyone backed away, afraid of the energy core that could explode. But Eli had acted on instinct. He ran forward, opened the side panel, and pulled the power cell free before it could detonate. The drone fell silent, the light fading from its eyes. He had no idea that one of the beings he had just protected was the royal daughter of the Empire, the Princess Lysera. Now he was standing before the king and queen because of that single action. His hands were slightly shaking and his mind raced for words. The hall glowed with blue crystal walls that seemed alive, breathing faint waves of color. The alien guards stood perfectly still, their armor smooth and shining. Eli swallowed hard. He felt small in this world of giants, a man surrounded by beings far beyond him. The king's voice broke the silence. It was deep, powerful, and carried the weight of command. "Human," he said slowly, the word sharp in his mouth. "You entered royal grounds. You interfered with palace security. Explain yourself." Eli's voice came out soft. I didn't mean to cause trouble, sir." The drone was going to explode. "I just wanted to stop it," the nobles whispered again. Some laughed quietly. The queen raised her eyes, silver and bright, and looked at him with curiosity. "You acted without fear," she said. Even when armed guards stood aside, Eli rubbed his hands together nervously. "I just saw something wrong and fixed it." "That's my job, ma'am." The king frowned. "A human's job is not to decide for the Empire. You risked your life without permission." Before he could answer, a soft, clear voice spoke from beside the throne. "He risked his life for me." Every eye turned toward the princess. She stepped forward, her gown shining like the surface of a star. Her long silver hair moved as if carried by a hidden breeze. Lysera was known throughout the Empire as calm and distant, a royal born of perfect control. But now her voice carried emotion. "When the drone turned wild, none of my guards moved. Only he did. He acted when others froze." The king's expression hardened. "You speak too kindly of this creature." "He is not a creature," Lysera said, her tone steady. "He saved me." She turned toward Eli. For a moment, her glowing eyes met his. "And I choose to honor that." Before anyone could stop her, she pointed toward him and said the words that would shake the entire court. "I want him." The sound of her voice filled the hall. Gasps broke out among the nobles. Some shouted in disbelief. The queen's lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. Eli blinked, unsure if he had heard right. He looked behind him, thinking maybe she meant someone else. But no, her finger was pointed directly at him. The king rose from his throne, his long cloak flowing behind him. "You speak recklessly, daughter. You are heir to the Thalren line. You cannot want a human. Such things are beneath you." "I do not care," Lysera replied. "He has courage, father. Courage your guards failed to show." The king's voice thundered again, echoing across the crystal walls. "You would shame this court for a fragile outsider?" Eli stepped back slightly, his heart pounding. "Your Majesty, please," he said quickly. "I don't want to cause any problems." "I didn't mean to offend anyone." But the princess did not let him finish. "You didn't offend me," she said softly, her eyes never leaving his face. "You reminded me what true courage looks like." The queen, who had been silent, finally stood. Her movements were graceful, her voice calm but strong. "Enough," she said. "This human did what he thought was right." "Let him speak," she looked at Eli. "Tell us, human, why did you not run when danger came?" Eli hesitated, then spoke simply. "Because someone was in danger. Where I'm from, you don't just stand and watch. You help." The queen's eyes softened, and for a brief moment even the king's anger seemed to cool. "Strange," she murmured. "Such words are rare, even here." But the tension did not fade. The nobles began to argue in low tones. Some demanded the human be sent away. Others whispered that the princess's words were forbidden. The king's hand tightened on the arm of his throne. Eli stood frozen, unsure what to do or say next. Then Lysera spoke again, her voice clear and steady. If you punish him, you punish me as well. I will not allow that. The hall fell completely silent. The queen looked at her daughter, then at the king. After a long moment, she said quietly, "Let the human stay. We will see what kind of being earns our daughter's favor." The king said nothing, but his glare was sharp as a blade. The guards stepped aside, their glowing spears dimming. Eli felt his legs weaken in relief, though his heart was still racing. The princess walked closer, her steps light against the shining floor. She stopped only a few feet away. Up close, Eli could see faint lines of energy glowing along her skin like soft silver patterns. "You should not have risked yourself," she said gently. Eli gave a small smile. "Maybe not, but I couldn't let anyone get hurt." Her expression softened for a brief second before she turned away. "Then you are different from what I was told humans are like." When she walked back toward the throne, the hall slowly emptied. The guard stayed behind, keeping watch over the human who had just caused a storm among the royal family. Eli stood quietly, trying to make sense of what had just happened. He had only meant to help, but now he was caught in something far bigger. As the queen and king left the hall, Lysera looked back once more. For a moment, her gaze met his again, and something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, curiosity, and something else Eli could not yet name. He was just an engineer from Earth, yet now the most powerful family in the galaxy knew his name. He did not understand their customs, but he understood one thing clearly. His life had changed forever the moment he pulled that power cell free. And deep inside the palace walls, hidden from the court's eyes, the princess whispered to herself, "He may be human, but he is not weak." That night, as Eli was escorted to a guest room within the royal citadel, he stared out at the alien sky through a glass wall. 2 moons hung above a sea of blue light. The air shimmered softly, carrying strange music from the city below. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something he could never have imagined, and far above, in her chamber of crystal light, Princess Lysera sat by the window, watching the same sky. Her hand rested over her heart as she whispered a promise to the stars. "Tomorrow they will see what I see in him." The next morning, light from the twin suns poured through the crystal walls of the alien palace. Eli woke up in a room far grander than anything he had ever seen. The walls glowed softly and the floor felt warm beneath his feet. He could hear faint songs coming from outside, sung by the floating gardens that surrounded the citadel. Everything seemed peaceful, yet his heart was uneasy. He still could not believe what had happened the day before. The princess of an alien empire had pointed at him, before everyone, and said she wanted him. Eli dressed in the clothes that had been given to him, a simple white tunic that shimmered faintly like metal. He didn't know what to expect. When he stepped outside, 2 royal guards were already waiting. Their tall forms looked calm but serious. "The princess requests your presence in the East Garden," one of them said. Eli nodded quietly and followed. The path to the garden was filled with light and color. Strange flowers floated in the air, glowing with soft blue light. The sky above was full of moving energy ribbons instead of clouds. When Eli reached the garden, he saw Princess Lysera standing near a pond of liquid crystal. Her reflection shimmered like a ghost in the water. "You came," she said softly without turning. "Well, you did send guards," Eli said with a nervous smile. Lysera looked at him, her silver eyes gentle but unreadable. "You are not afraid of me, are you?" He shook his head. "No, just confused. On my planet, when someone says I want him, it usually means trouble." She gave a small laugh, light and musical. "In my world, it means choice. I chose you because you acted without fear. My people respect strength, but they forgot what courage means." Eli looked down. "I didn't do anything special. I just fixed something broken." "That is what makes it special," she said. "You helped without wanting reward. That is something rare here." For a moment they stood in silence. The sound of soft wind moved through glowing trees. Eli felt something calm inside him, something he hadn't felt since leaving Earth. The princess watched him closely, studying every small movement as if trying to understand what kind of being he truly was. Days passed, and Eli's presence in the palace became the talk of the empire. Some nobles called him the Earth Curiosity. Others whispered that the princess had lost her mind. Still, Lysra continued to meet him in secret places: the garden, the library, the viewing towers. She wanted to know everything about humans: how they lived, what they dreamed, why they fought wars, and why they always tried again even after losing. Eli told her stories of small things: children playing in the rain, people helping each other, the beauty of a sunrise over the ocean. She listened to every word. "Humans live so short," she said one evening, "but you fill your days with such fire. Maybe that is why you shine brighter than we do." Eli smiled. "Maybe it's because we don't have forever. We just make the best of what we've got." Their friendship grew, and slowly, the palace guards began to see the change in their princess. She smiled more. She visited the people more often. Even the queen noticed, but the king did not. He watched from afar, worried and angry. He feared the human was turning his daughter away from the royal path. One day the king summoned Eli again. The throne room felt colder than before. "Human," the king said firmly, "you have earned favor you do not understand. I will test your worth." Eli looked up, uncertain. "What kind of test?" The king gestured and the walls opened, revealing a strange device: a large sphere floating in the air, glowing with light. "This is the heart crystal of the citadel. It powers the entire palace. It has been unstable for years. Fix it if you truly are what my daughter believes you to be." Eli walked closer. The hum of the machine filled the air, heavy and deep. He studied the connections and circuits. Though alien, they followed a logic he could sense: energy flow, pattern, and feedback. He took a deep breath and began to work, careful but quick. The nobles watched in silence. Time passed slowly. The machine sparked once, then twice, and then grew quiet. A moment later, the hum turned steady, and the light changed from red to blue. The whole palace seemed to breathe again. Eli stepped back, wiping his hands. "It's done." The hall filled with whispers. The king's eyes widened slightly, though he hid his surprise. The queen smiled faintly. "So," she said softly, "the human does not only act with courage, but also with wisdom." But the test was not over. Moments later, alarms echoed through the hall. The palace guards rushed in. "Your Majesty, rebel drones have broken through the western gates." The king stood quickly, his cloak swirling. "Protect the queen," he commanded. Lysra looked at Eli. "Stay here." But Eli shook his head. "No, I'm coming." He ran after the guards even though he had no weapon. The hall shook as explosions thundered outside. The rebels were machines. Droids once built to defend the Empire now turned against it. Eli saw one of them charging toward a group of civilians trapped near the courtyard. Without thinking, he grabbed a fallen guard's energy rod and struck at the droid's control node. Sparks flew. The machine collapsed. Lysra arrived beside him, using her staff to send out waves of energy that shut down others. "You're reckless," she shouted, but there was worry in her voice. "Guess that's my human side," Eli said, smiling despite the chaos. Together they fought their way to the main gate where the biggest drone was tearing through walls. Eli saw its power core glowing and shouted, "If we don't shut that down, the whole palace could go." Lysra nodded, trusting him without question. She held the machine's attention while Eli climbed onto its side and opened the access hatch. Sparks burned his hands, but he kept going. With one last pull, he disconnected the main power line. The drone froze, lights fading, and crashed to the ground. When silence fell, everyone looked around in disbelief. The rebels were gone. The palace stood safe. The king stepped forward, his proud face softer now. "You risked your life again, human," he said slowly. "Not for yourself. Not even for her. For all of us." Eli straightened, breathing heavily. "I just did what anyone should do." The queen smiled. "No, Eli Grant, not anyone would." Lysra walked toward him, her eyes bright with emotion. "You saved my people again," she said quietly. "You didn't have to, but you did." Before the crowd, she took his hand. The hall went silent. The nobles watched, frozen in shock. "I once said I wanted you," she said. "Now I know why. You are more than a guest, more than a savior. You are the bridge between our worlds." Eli didn't know what to say. He felt the warmth of her hand, the truth of her words, and the eyes of everyone upon him. The king looked at them for a long time. Then with a deep sigh, he said, "The Thalren Empire will no longer see humans as lesser. If this man represents their kind, then Earth shall stand as our equal." The queen nodded gently. "And this human shall stand beside our daughter." A wave of light filled the hall, marking the new bond between their species. Eli looked at the princess, who smiled softly. "You changed everything," she whispered. He smiled back. "Maybe not everything. Just enough to start something new."